Welcome back, beautiful people. This is another episode of An Untold Narrative. And today's guest is somebody who I met a few weeks ago at Veecon, for those who have been following along. Francis Almeda joins us today, who is an unbelievable creative. We're going to get into his work. He gifted me this amazing pin, little GM pin, that I rave about all the time now, and I like to wear it. So Francis, welcome to the show. Tell us where are you? Kind of how do you introduce yourself? What do
Sure.
you consider yourself?
Yeah. Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Francis Almeda. As Dave said, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm in my little studio that I share with a good friend of mine who's also a wonderful artist. But anywho, what do I describe myself as? I think if you were to ask me that, let's even say like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I'm a straight up graphic designer. That's what I would have said. Or an art director. I was in ad agencies for the majority of my life, 18 to 20 years. So I would have said I was a designer, but now, uh, I'm 40. I've designed for too long, and now I would consider myself an entrepreneur. But I think that word to me comes, and this is probably just a personal thing, but it comes off a little douchey sometimes. So I don't like saying that I'm an entrepreneur, even though that's what I consider myself as. But I just I launch businesses, I make things, I build things, I work with people that I love and create things that I love. So that's what I like to do, and that's what I'm doing right now.
I'm so happy you said that. I think a lot of the guests that we have conversations with, we're really just part of this slash generation. We do this slash this slash this. It's like
Yeah.
there's a million things, and sometimes that causes anxiety, sometimes that causes us to overwork a little bit. But ultimately, usually at its core is the passion for creation. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you fit right into that. And so
Exactly.
was there a moment, going from traditional, let's call it graphic design or art direction, to like
Hmm.
a moment in time where you're like, no, I got to just bet on myself and just start creating these things that I want to create?
Yeah. I think so being in advertising for quite a while in agencies here in Chicago and San Francisco, there came a point around like 2016, let's just say, where I was just like, well, I was doing enough client work that I'm like, okay, let me try to do something for myself. So I knew I could illustrate things really quick. And then at that time, my friends and family were wearing pins on their hats and bags and shirts and jackets. So I'm like, well, I could design these things super quick. Takes me like, maybe 20, 30 minutes to illustrate something. And I could turn it into something tangible that I could potentially sell to people. Not that money, although money is a nice incentive, not that money was the goal. It was more of like a creative outlet for me to create things and have something for myself. So I launched Reppin Pins in 2016. And this is all about luck, or this is a story about luck, just because around that time, pins started to take off. I don't know what happened. They were selling them in the Urban Outfitters for some reason. Not that they weren't a thing in the past, but there was this new wave of people who love collecting and wearing pins, and we just happened to be, launching at the same time. So that kind of took me on not only a creative journey of making things for myself, but starting to realize that I could launch a business on my own and, make some extra income on the side along with advertising. So that was, I think, the initial point where I'm like, oh, I could do something for myself.
How did you
Yeah.
stumble
So
on
that's where it
pins?
started. Pins.
Like,
So yeah, I think like as I said, friends and family wore it on their hats and jackets, but I like the idea of something super small representing something so big about you. I gave you a GM pin, but around that time, everyone at VCon or in this space is saying GM. It's a big, maybe
yeah,
meaningful thing to us, but it comes like in a small thing that you could wear and really rep
yeah.
in. So I like that idea of something super small that could say something a lot about you, but also I like collecting things. I think as humans we like collecting things whether we know it or not. So that was a thing that I wanted to tap into as well.
I love that. And so Rep Pin was your first business that you created outside of your day-to-day job, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. First, if you call it official business, I think side projects have been a huge part of my life, even in the ad agency world. Like I come from a creative environment where the leads kind of give you freedom to work on things on the side. Like for example, at an old ad agency, there's this whole like, hey, pitch us an idea. Doesn't have to be client based, client related. And if we like the idea, we'll help back, a team for you and get that project off the ground. And whether or not my idea made the cut, I was always involved in the side projects that people or myself uh, worked on. It's just been a huge thing, a part of my creative journey. So I think this is a long-winded answer of saying that I've always kind of been working on things on the side, but this was maybe the first thing that I was like, oh my God, I could buy my wife a nice dinner, with
That's
this
amazing.
extra money that I'm making. Yeah.
So I do want to, push a little bit deeper, right? Because this idea of working harder or extra or putting more time and energy from our lives
Sure.
into something, right? Whether it's monetary motivation or whatever it is, or taking your wife out, it stems from somewhere, right? And so, what was there a moment or from when you reflect back on like your upbringing or kind of where you come from, or a moment in time where you like had this like, your parents hustlers? Do they have multiple businesses? Like, can you like reflect back on like, is there a person or a moment that like kind of shifted and navigated in your brain? Because in a lot of these conversations that I have, usually there's a person or a place or a moment in time which kind of triggers somebody to really just start betting more on themselves, and then they do more
Yeah,
outside the 9 to 5.
totally. I think there are a couple of moments, that for all of us, little tits and bits and pieces, but I think my mom was a nurse, my dad was an engineer, but I remember sitting outside with my dad, and he was just kind of relaxing off a hard days of work. He was working, busting his ass as an engineer for a long time. Always worked with his hands and building things on the side, but not a entrepreneur like I am. See how it sounds douchey. Anyways, like I am, but uh, I remember him saying that he wishes that he didn't have a 9 to 5. I remember him like kind of being exhausted of doing the same monotonous thing. And I could feel that as a young, I don't know, probably a freshman in high school at that point. Like I could feel like, okay, well, he's kind of sad going to the same job every day. So not that that changed the way I thought about things, but that was ingrained in my brain for, whether I like it or not. It was always in the back of my mind. And then I think as far as entrepreneurship, there's this. We went to Hawaii at one point, my wife and I, and we took a cooking class in Hawaii to make, spam with soupies and some Hawaiian dishes. But it was one of those like they're called Airbnb experiences now, but like different things that little classes you could take online, or reserve online. And then we went to this person's house, and I forget her name, but her house, like I remember pulling up in an Uber to her house, and it was this is going to make me sound like I'm doing it for the money, but it's just her lifestyle is what I'm trying to get to. But her house was beautiful. There was not a
Mm,
dog walking around. There was this pig walking around, and that was her pet. And then we walk into her house, and it's like surfboards on the wall and this humongous kitchen that she's able to teach her own classes. And now I'm like, who is this lady, and how did she get to where she is
mm.
now? And then so we're cooking, and then we're making some spam musubis, and then she sees my spam musubi. Not that I'm a great cook or anything, but she's like, "Oh, you're hired at my restaurant whenever that comes." I'm like, then that kind of got me going, like, so what do you do, or how did you get here? And her thing is, oh, I launch businesses and I sell them. I come up with ideas, I execute them, and at some point I sell them. And I thought, what a wonderful thing. You're getting to work on all these little passion projects. And maybe if you're kind of not over it, but if it's the right time, you're able to exit and move on to the next thing. So reppin, now I'm kind of rambling, so cut me off whenever, David. But uh, reppin was my first business, but after that, I also run a coffee shop called Side Practice Coffee in Chicago. I'm about to launch a pizza business, working
Wow.
hard on that. And then I got two or three things just this week that is stressing me out a lot. So I don't want to put it out in public yet, but
Yes.
there are all these like little projects that happen to be food related. I don't know where that came by, but anyways, now I'm just launching a couple of more side businesses. Whether I call them side, I just call them projects now rather than side things. And I'm also, as you mentioned, working at Veefriends as still as a designer. So that kind of keeps the lights on, but also, I got things, other projects that will hopefully, maybe one day I could just focus on doing solely those things that I enjoy.
Wow, there is a lot to unpack there. Francis, that was amazing. So, first things first, right? Like the moment with your father, just like, so I come from similarly, like my dad is a tool and die maker, and so he's
Hmm,
always worked in a factory for the majority of his life. And like
awesome.
it's physical work and like you do the same thing every single day, right? And it's
Yeah.
when you experience somebody like that, especially like we immigrated from Poland, so like we came over to this country and he's doing this work because he's got to support a family, but like there is something, you're right, in the back of your brain of like, you know what, I'm part of this family. Their experiences are maybe not as positive as mine can be because I'm in more control, and the world today is much better and bigger and more
Totally.
accessible than where it formerly was. And so
Mhm.
you use that as like not necessarily motivation or inspiration, but it's like there is something there in the back of the brain. And so I do think you're right there. And then obviously like this cooking, it's so funny how we have these moments in time where you just even like not that you're chasing materialism or anything like that, but like
No,
you see
yeah,
this environment where this woman's coming to work every day and she's stoked and she's surrounding herself with this beautiful environment, and
yeah,
that helps her creatively. And it sounds like you're building that same thing.
that's the
And
truth. Yep,
and
yep.
even when you're not like a chef or anybody, or like you think you can't cook and you're launching these food businesses. I mean, that's so fascinating.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, in terms of, I've kind of, not that I don't have imposter syndrome or or whatever they're calling it nowadays. But I feel like we're all, we're kind of all on the same page. The only thing that differentiates us from other folks is just the experience that people have, like, or someone just decided to go up and do it, get up and do it. So that's my thing. It's like, I could learn anything. Just give me some time. So
Mm.
whether it's cooking or launching a coffee shop without, having any coffee experience, just give me some time to learn, and I'll learn throughout the way with building it. And I feel like, I'll build something that's interesting and fun. And if it isn't interesting, fun, at least I learned something that I could take on to the next project. So that's
So
just kind of
okay,
the way I'm doing it. Yeah.
we got to deep dive into that because there's a lot of creatives who listen to this. There's a lot of, maybe somebody who does want to leave corporate and start their own thing. How do you start, right? Like that's the hardest part is just starting, right? And learning and
Totally.
deep diving into something. Where do
Yeah.
you begin? Is it as simple as a Google search of like how to start a coffee business? Like, is
Oh,
it
how
that
funny.
simple?
So, well, that's funny that you bring that up because the way I started the coffee shop was it was a slow day at work. I was doing work for Google at that point, and I just Googled coffee shops for sale. This is not going to be very helpful for creatives. Anyways, I Googled coffee shops for sale, and turns out 7 minutes away, there's a cafe for sale. And at the time, I was wrapping up a pretty big project. I was taking a master class in negotiation. So I'm like, well, whatever. Let me just try to negotiate for the keys to the shop. And I ended up getting that. But okay. So, but your question is, how do you start something? And I think that's different for everyone. But one thing that I think a lot of folks do is they try to get some kind of affirmation or meeting with a bunch of people to get those people to say, okay, just go out and do it. And that's not something I do. I can't, and maybe that's just the way I roll, but I just jump like right into it, whether I think I could do it or not, because that's the best way I learn. And I think that's the best way people can learn instead of trying to meet with, like, I could have met with every cafe owner in the city, whatever, which I did, got on phone calls, met them in person, but it gets to a point where like all these meetings have happened, but no action has been taken in
Mm.
launching whatever you wanted to launch. So knowing that, like, I'm just going to learn throughout the way and make my mistakes, and that's how I learn. And I guess that's a long-winded answer of just like, and this is such sounds such a cliched thing to say, but just fail faster. Just work, make mistakes, learn from them, and move on to the next thing. Because, the more time it takes to kind of be ready or waiting for the right moment to launch
Mm.
something, that to me is not gonna come unless
But
you want, yeah,
deep
unless you make
root
it. Yeah, yeah,
deep rooted in that
yeah.
is the overwhelming fear of failure, right? And so
Hmm.
that fear deters a lot of people. So instead of even taking the first step of Googling coffee shops for sale, the
Yeah.
idea of how overwhelming that could be
Oh
prevents
yeah.
people to even start. And
Totally.
you, it seems like, have no fear towards anything,
None.
and you're just like, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it is a good motto. I'll tell you that. But hey, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I didn't feel overwhelmed, or there was little bits of moments of fear in the middle of the night when launching that coffee shop. But that fear doesn't do anything to help me move to where I want to be. If anything, it like keeps me awake and present in there. But fear is not going to get me anywhere. So, but the fear of failure, I'll tell you one thing. I don't have that. I could fail at this coffee shop today and just know that I could launch something again tomorrow. In the
Wow.
end, it's just like uh these, the time that we are living here and alive, you kind of just want to be focused on, or at least I kind of want to be focused on just making things that I want to make with the people that I want to make, and whether they succeed or not, that doesn't matter. Like, for me, it's just like, what makes you happy when you wake up, and for me, that's just making and building things. And if it fails, it's all good. I got another. All of us have a ton of ideas. I think we're all ideas people. So that's not going to run out. So if you fail, if one of your ideas fail, it's not the end of the world, because you can move on to the next thing. Yeah,
100%. I love that. I mean, this is so great. What one also thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, right? Let's say they do overcome this. Let's say they're entrepreneurial, they're part of the slash generation like we are, and they juggle a lot of things. Time management. You
sure.
mentioned right before we hopped on, like you have two kids, you got a family, you're juggling chainsaws essentially. How do you time manage? What is your secret to doing all of these things? You have a full-time job that you create at, then you have these side businesses, then you have a family. I mean, you're talking about three different worlds colliding every single day and pulling and having tension every
Yeah,
single day.
yeah.
What is your recipe to success in handling all of that?
Sure, that's a great question. I think that comes in different forms of answers as I progress in life.
Mm.
Pre-family, pre-kids, that was an easy answer. I'm like, well, I just got up at 5 a.m. I got up at 5 before everyone woke up, and I could work on my side things, and during the day, finish my full-time job stuff, and then at night, if I have time, I'll keep working on my side things. But honestly, I'm family and friends are a big thing to me, so they are priority no matter what, and especially now as I have kids. I think we're just so that was my answer at one point. I think a lot of folks say that, but now, I'm 40, man, and I got kids, and they're up at 5 a.m. Me getting up early is not a good strategy anymore. So now and I see you running on Instagram. For me now, it's having the energy and being
Mm.
healthy and strong. I think I think we could work ourselves to death, and then as our health goes down, you don't have the energy to work on things. So for me, it's like I'm going to the gym, I'm eating healthy. I know that sounds like Yeah, I get it. I should be healthy, but for me, it's the energy that I need to be awake for my businesses and be there presently for my kids. Now, as
Mm,
far as having a lot of things on the side and that are moving, I think it's working with the right people. It's delegating the work and for you not taking on everything. The people at my coffee shop, my staff there are just wonderful. They run that entire thing. I just get in the way. I have ideas in there, but it's you get the right people behind you and working with you, then time frees up and you could focus on whatever your priorities are. What mine is my kids and my family. As many things as I got going on now. Like if there's ever a moment where I feel like, and I'll be honest, right now it feels very overwhelming because there's a lot of things going on, but even driving here, I was like, maybe there's something I could just take off my plate. You know,
mm,
what can I free up so I could have more time to be with my family or even just be bored by yourself because I think we run out of that nowadays
we
as
do.
creatives and entrepreneurs. Like and taking some time off from your device or just being able to stare at a wall. We don't know how to be bored anymore. So trying to build in some of that family time and being bored time is very important to me. And I think that returns exponentially in your work, like you're able to
Mm,
come back and feel like energized about that. But delegation, uh, I could go on about time management, but I think we have all our own ways of doing things. But I will say like, and I'm trying to learn this as we move forward, but saying no to things, I have a hard time doing. I say yes to a lot of things. So I'm trying to, I heard this and read this somewhere, but if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. So basically what it's saying, it's like if you're not like 100% juiced about this idea or next project, then it's probably a no. You should you should just turn it down. So that will free up some time. It's all about freeing up time. That's what I think it is. You could delegate in time management, but as soon as you free up time, then I think you're just going to be happier.
I think
And
that's
yeah,
a great rule. Like a hell yeah or becomes a hell no. That
yeah,
is something I'm going to implement because I the same problem, right? I like to say yes to everything. I took on a painting commission, and
it's
I hate
awesome.
it's for a family friend, and so like I'm happy
Yeah.
to do it, but like I hate painting pets, and it was a pet painting. And I should have said no, but like it was like I said yes because of like X, Y, and Z reasons. But you're right, I wasn't like super stoked to do it, and like I should have just said no. And like and I do think there is something to be said about we all have time. It's just a matter of do we make time for certain things, and saying
Sure.
no to more things frees up time. And so that is a huge conversation that I think a lot of creatives struggle with, in that balancing. But it sounds like you're really figuring it out, as you get through these different
Yeah,
projects, and you grow, and you learn more about yourself. Eating healthy, being healthy is so key and fundamental. I mean, we're nothing without our health. So like you touching on that is so important because a lot of people like overlook it until the problem is there. And so
exactly.
they're like, oh, I'll
Yeah.
keep eating fried chicken, but everything's fine. Like my body's fine, my energy's fine until it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, like my brain, your brain, it's what keeps us being creative. So if that doesn't feel sharp, if I'm drinking, I don't drink that much anymore, if at all anymore. But if my wake up all slow and groggy, that's not going to help me throughout the day and do the things that I want to do. But I'm sorry, Dave, I want to take a step back in terms of saying no to things because I think that's when you're a young creative, I've mentioned I'm an old man now, but when you're a young creative, you better be saying yes to everything. Like I don't care. You say yes to things just because those will open up doors and opportunities for you that you didn't know existed. Now, when you get to a point when you're able to say no, and you'll probably figure that out a little later, that's when you start saying no. So I think it comes in phases because if I didn't say yes to all the shit when I was young, I wouldn't be where I am here, where I am
Sure.
today. So that I just wanted to touch on that because
No, I think
I,
that's
I
a
yeah,
super amazing
yeah,
point, and I'm glad you backtracked a little bit because you never want somebody to take anything out of context. Everything advice is always subjective, right? And it's like it depends on
Yeah,
your lifestyle, it depends on where you are, it depends on your environment, it depends on everything. So like I think
totally.
you're 1,000% right when you're in a different situation. I think now that we are a little bit older, have more experience and the time to say no, definitely maximize that. But if you're in your 20s and you're trying to figure out and navigate this life,
Yeah.
definitely
You
go
better,
crazy and
yeah, you better
say
be
yes.
painting those pets. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of going backwards, I did want to not lose my train of thought around. You said something very fundamental around finding and surrounding yourself with the right people. You used the example of like finding your amazing staff at your coffee shop, right? And how they pretty much run that business. A lot of people struggle. I mean, we live in a very like siloed environment, right? Like a lot of people spend the majority of their days alone, and then if what they're exposed to on social media is really their interaction time.
Yeah.
How do you find the right people, right? Like in a world full of like short staffs and like, people not wanting to work, let's call them like everyday jobs, like a coffee, barista or whatever. Like, how
Hmm.
do you find the best people? Like, I'm stoked we ran into each other. Like, I know we're going to be
Yeah.
friends for a long time, just like from the short interactions we've had, because we can
Thanks, man.
help each other. And I think that's really
Agreed.
cool. But like, how
Hmm.
do people find those people to help elevate themselves?
Yeah, sure. I think that's there's two answers to that. So the for the staff at SPC or Side Practice Coffee or the people that I work with, um, the way I kind of uh, this is kind of talking from a leadership standpoint, and I'll get back to kind of surrounding yourself with the right folks. But
Sure.
for people who work with me or work at one of my businesses, I kind of take initiative in a way where like they're not just working for me. In fact, I kind of feel awful saying that. What I'm trying to do is like um, get them to where they want to be. They probably have side practices or projects that they want to be working on too. So how can I, with my experience, help them in sort of way? If not me, then I probably know someone else to make a connection to help them get them to where they want to be. So to get the right people or to at least keep the the right people. It's like, I wrote down a quote yesterday, but it's like train your employees to be able to get a whatever job they want, but treat them in a way where they don't want to ever leave. So that's
Mm.
it's kind of this fun thing of like, well, I'm gonna train you to be like not like me, hopefully better than me, but like train you to think like me in terms of like you could do anything that you want to do, build whatever you want to build, just with the right people around you, and I'll help you do that. But I still need your help. So let me, how can we make that work? Anywho, now in terms of surrounding yourself with the right people, I think that's going to be your kind of juggle in life, and just know that, um, the five. I think the saying is the five people that you surround yourself with is you become the average of those five people. So now it's your due diligence to get rid of the people who aren't contributing to the kind of person you want to be, but also introducing new people in your life that such as Dave, that will motivate, and you want to get some of their creative and talent through osmosis or something. But it's just like know who you're surrounding yourself with, and just realize that they are going to have a huge impact on who you really are, whether you like it or not. So, and those five people that you surround yourself are super important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct, and I don't think enough people weed out all the people who have a negative influence on their
Yeah.
life, right? And
Yeah.
and because that's hard, man. It's hard to like you've known somebody your entire life or the majority of your life, and you're really not liking the way that they're growing, and it's affecting you, but cutting that tie, even if it's close family, like just being like instead of talking to your sister or your brother who
Yeah.
you like really just don't align with every day, talk to them once a week, once a month.
Totally.
Like it's
Totally.
totally fine.
Yep.
I do want you to touch on the point of or around surrounding yourself with like people outside of work and business and stuff like that. Like, have you found success to meeting new people or surrounding? I mean, obviously, VCon's a very organic, full of great people, and like so
Right.
going to a conference like that is super helpful. But like, is there another way that people can find people like themselves?
Oh, that's a good yeah, I think what starts to happen when you do the work that you want, I'm going to speak from an artist and creative standpoint, but once you start doing the work that you want to be doing and consistently kind of sharing it, I know we live in the social media age, but I think it is important because you start to share what you're doing, whether you think you're good at it or not. People start to realize what you're kind of known for. Hence me launching a coffee shop and helping food businesses out. Then people start to come to me for be like, oh, he knows food or he knows cafes. Let's go talk to him. So then people start to gravitate towards you and ask you for advice on their side projects or practices in my case. So it's like the more you put out the work, the more you do the work and put out the work that you want to be doing, the right types of people, or at least the people that you want to be around, start hopefully, I think in most cases, gravitate toward you, and
Yeah, and I think
it just happens organically. Like me and you, Dave. Like who like what? I don't know how to get without
I,
VCon. That is organic, but it's like we all kind of are passionate about this one thing. So it's like that's how we
And I
how
think
you kind
you're
of
I
get
think you're
together.
right, Francis. And also like the people who will reach out after they see you growing and executing, the people who reach out are usually the doers, not just the
Yeah,
talkers, right? Because they're
100%.
actually
Yep.
willing to take the initiative to reach out. And so
Totally.
therefore, you know that they're like-minded in that sense because they want to build something bigger for themselves. And so
Yeah.
I think that's super true. I never thought about it that way, but you're 100% correct.
Yeah, and
Um,
I only realized that recently though, Dave. I'm me saying no to things. I'll be honest, Dave, I would have said no to you maybe a year ago. I say no to any meeting. I don't want to, it's like because I'm trying to free up time, as I mentioned before. But I think it just became recently like I'm going to start saying yes to experiences that build relationships this year. That's kind of what I've been kind of getting at, and it's been amazing. I've been saying yes to these kind of meetups with talking to different people who are doing their own thing. I just get a ton out of it. A beautiful connection is made. Some friendships are made. So I just learned that recently. Don't So I agree
I
with
think
you is what I'm trying to say.
a
Yeah.
hundred percent. And also, like just in the 30 plus minute we've been chatting, I'm jazzed up for the rest of my day, and so
Good, good.
I'm ready to rock and roll. So, Francis, this has been really, really beautiful. I have a couple more questions for you, and then we'll wrap
Yeah.
up. The first is where can people find you, right? Do you use like, a platform more specifically than others? There's a million social media outlets, but how can, if somebody is interested in following along your journey or reaching out if they have a specific question, like where could people find you?
Sure, I am I'm an Instagram kind of dude. So at Francis.Almeda. I'm sure Dave will have my name up there, but it's at Francis.Almeda at on Instagram, and you'll find links to my cafe side practice, coffee, and rep and pins. I got a pizza thing called Novel Pizza, and some of you may know Veefriends, but I work for them as well. So all those links will be on my Instagram page, but that's the best way to get a hold of me.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. And so, um, last question for you. I love doing this it's become a routine now on the pod. We as creators, creatives, entrepreneurs, whatever, we wouldn't be here without other people's help in our
Hmm.
lives. And
Hmm.
so I always want to take an opportunity to give you a moment to offer up flowers to somebody or multiple people or whether it's
Yeah,
friends, family,
that's nice. That's
whatever,
awesome.
and take
Hmm.
a moment to really just highlight somebody in your life who's really helped you because the way that you speak and articulate about your passions and your work is really tremendous. But like, yeah, you've done the work, but there's a foundation around you, and I could tell. And so like, I'd love to take a moment to just like give you an opportunity to just share some flowers.
Ah, that's very nice. What a beautiful part of the pod. But it will and probably it's my wife Anne. She has been my foundation in motivating me and inspiring me and really just allowing me to be me, which is incredible. And now we have two kids, and I want to give flowers to them as well because my little boy Chase, who is 2 months, and my daughter Francesca, who is Frankie, is 22 months. So I got two under two. But
Wow.
now every decision that I make, what business related or mainly business related, is all for them. I'm kind of like building my future in regards to like, will this inspire them or motivate them to or teach them a lesson later in the future? So all my decisions from creative and entrepreneurial standpoint are for them. So they are my foundation, and I want to give flowers to them. I love them all, and I wouldn't be here without them. Yeah,
Wow, I love that. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, I know I don't know from experience, but from the people that I surround myself with who are going through parenthood or a family and building a family, that's the pride and joy and a lot of the motivation every single day. So, you after listening to this podcast, you have all the fuel in the world, and I am so jazzed up to watch and witness and hopefully contribute. I'd love to contribute in any way, shape, or form to help you along the way
amazing.
eventually. But Francis, this has been truly beautiful, and I appreciate your time. I know, obviously you mentioned you don't take these calls very often because you got a million things going on, but this has been amazing, and I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. This is what a wonderful thing you're doing. Thank you.